Good evening, guys. Thanks for being here a little bit early and waiting for me to get here. Just wanted to kind of make sure that I had the setup proper for the scheduling for the live streams. So yeah, unfortunately, Pop didn't cover it a lot, but I wanted to go over it a bit when it came to the whole Drake scenario and how that nightmare went. So I will be sharing a couple of the posts that were probably on there as well, if they did any, and kind of go over the mistakes he made and basically how what this Instagram model was doing. We all know what it is. It's sperm jacking. How one is a crime, but one isn't. We have these girls that have done this lots. And in most family court cases, men are still held accountable. They're still stuck with child support, still on the hook. And although she didn't get her sperm jack baby, she did get a burned coochie, and Drake's most likely going to get sued for it, and she's most likely going to win. It's not the first time this has happened where the guys have actually done this with condoms. And I know it's actually referred to as the method of disposing of it, but it's not. Flush it down a toilet or take it with you. Don't do the hot sauce thing unless you got a lot to lose. But yeah, so I wanted to just, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I'll share this with you here. There we are. And hopefully it'll pop up. I'm not sure if that's actually lagging right now, because I still don't have my actual connection up. Yeah, so he's making headlines for it, putting in the claim that essentially he did it based on, his method of disposing of live sperm, which, as long as he doesn't say anything else, from what I've understood from some of the lawyers speak, that could be fought and won. Now, like I said, there is rumors that he's saying other things, that he knew she was going to do it, and that's why he put the hot sauce in. That has happened before. Guys have been sued. It's not a good idea. So, as you can see, he's basically going to catch a lot of flack for this. Legally, he is on the hook, as far as I know, when it comes to essentially putting a foreign substance into a place where she would actually use it. And it isn't illegal to sperm jack someone. And you can obviously see why this Instagram model, whose fame is fading, managed to hook up with famous Drake and tried to impregnate herself. And, there's no crime for her. On the other hand, if the information is right and they were actually at Drake's house, even if it's in the trash in your house, it's still your property. We all know that the law is, if you put your trash outside, out on the curb, it's now public property, and anyone can go through it as long as they don't destroy the can they're actually in. But this was in his house. Maybe he could fight her on that. Luckily, she didn't get pregnant, so that's an extra bonus. But, it's as funny as it is, it's not recommended. So at the end of Pop's alt text stream there, he mentioned that, take it with you or put hot sauce in it. And that's not a good idea. You don't want to do that. Essentially, guys, like I said, if he can fight it from what the lawyers are stating, if he can say that, it wasn't wasn't intentional to do any harm to her, and he can just say, "This is how I dispose of it," he could get off the hook. If not, because it'll be in a civil court, I believe, um, Drake could be could be up for a couple $1 million lawsuit. Not great, but she'll still get paid in the end. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's all this was about. We know it, they know it, and the courts will support it. If she were to sperm jack him, it's a payday. If now she gets through with this lawsuit, it's a payday. Either way, she gets paid at the end. And I really hope that, you know, nobody else tries this crap because it's really not worth it. And try to avoid these people by flushing it down the toilet or taking it with you guys. If you're at their house, get rid of it completely. Leave no chances because they can sperm jack a common person any day of the week. And once it hits family court, as a guy, you're doomed. And, these women don't want these children. They really don't. We all know that. These children are just tools to access finances. And that's it. That's all this Instagram model was after. That's all most women are after, even in marriage. Even in marriage, they have children knowing that they're a tool they can use to get a payday at the end. And women have admitted to that. Hey, Riggs Jr., buddy. How are you? Post Kebab, D-Man. Good to see you all here. Thanks for coming by. Shinobi One, JR, Brandon. So, yeah, I just wanted to go over a couple of those things. And as I stated, these women don't really want kids. And the next article I want to pull up here from this week, which is kind of ridiculously disgusting, is this one. This woman went to a sperm donor, had the child. The child wasn't the race she wanted. Put the baby up for adoption, even though this is still her child too, and is now suing the donor. And she will most likely win that as well. And now there's another kid out in the system, unwanted. That should show you the level of just plain depravity that has been going on around in our culture. And this is a Japanese woman. They're pretty woke over there too. This is not just the Western world. Japan has the lying down men or whatever, which is basically like our mgtow. And men are saying enough's enough. But when you're having kids and the only reason you want this child is because of its race, you're a sick person. And most of us will probably say that this woman will win her lawsuit just because the donor lied about what race he fully was. Now, I don't know what race the baby came out. They didn't release a lot of the information behind it. But yeah, essentially that even the donors, once again, we have heard of the donors being sued for child support when they found out who they were. And now, because the donor isn't the right race or lied about his race, they're going to get sued again. And this is why sperm banks are running out of jizz juice. The man juice is drying up. So, again, this is another thing that's pretty common here in the Western world as well. We have lots of women here, especially in my part of Canada, that are so unequipped to be partners with men that they have no choice but to go to a sperm bank because they don't believe the common person that they know or meet are good enough to be fathers. So they'll just go pick one off a menu. I mean, if they find out who any of these men are, it's a few paperwork later, and they're in the divorce in the family court system, dragging child support out of them. Um, and the donors have slowed down here as well. I've heard that in a couple towns in the states, they are basically like trying to up the fee for donors, and just to encourage other men to actually come in and donate, and they're not getting the response they want. Um, Personally, I think these places should be closed down. This is one of the reasons our system is the way it is. When it comes to pair bonding with actual men, women know that if they waste their time, can't find the Prince Charming that doesn't exist because their standards are so high, they can just go to one of these sperm banks and have a kid. Now they'll be financially most likely alone when raising this kid, but even that's not really a guarantee, as you can tell by this article. She's held up to no obligation at the end of this. The baby gets put into a system, and it's a baby that didn't need to be born. And even though it's still half hers, she doesn't care enough to keep it because of its race, which is crazy. I mean, you're a sick person when that's the case. So I kind of want to go into this whole idea of why your standard man around the Western world, walking away from the idea of marriage and children and relationships is really just the evolution. Like mgtow, we mentioned a few weeks ago, was kind of stagnant. I believe I said it on Guru to Ghost's stream, or he mentioned it, and we kind of went into the details that mgtow is kind of like it goes so far to get men going their own way, and then it doesn't evolve. There's a limit to where you can go. Um, I don't fully believe that's the case. Like a lot of guys can take what we learn here, or what we understand and serves us as MGTOWs, and then they just go on with their everyday life. Whether they come back with for a top up or a refresher, yeah, we kind of only go so far. And, that's something we could probably change as well. So that's kind of one of the things I'd like to get into, just to kind of say that, yes, we will repeat ourselves to make sure the message gets out there, but we will also kind of go to a more advanced way. What happens after? So if one of you guys would like to pop on, we could definitely start doing that. I just want to grab the link here before we go too far, and I will drop it in the live stream chat as soon as I figure that out. So I'm only going to bring on people I know, because we don't want a repeat of what happened the last time with One Fast X first stream. So if one of you guys want to jump in for a chat, that's no problem, and kind of get your take on it. I personally, I know a lot of people are kind of thinking the same thing, that their MGTOW lifestyle hasn't evolved, and that they feel like it has nothing to offer after a certain point. But we could always change that, right? So if you guys want to jump in, just let me know. I'm just going to pause my mic here for a second while I go grab something. Okay, we're set. I do have to keep it down a little bit. I just put my little guy down. He's finally skipping naps. But yeah, to go over the Drake thing and touch on a few things. I mean, I don't know how you guys personally feel about it. Maybe you believe he was in the wrong. Me personally, I think it's funny, but that's probably about it. He's going to get himself in a bit of trouble, and he really didn't need the heat. But at the same time, what we really need to change is the fact that there was no illegal act on her end, according to the laws we have now. But yet, the idea of tampering with a condom or with your semen that's in a condom is not a new case. And, there's been no laws changed around that. The sperm jacking thing, like I said, is still not illegal in any country, as far as I know. So, I mean, when did we change the laws so quickly for tampering with a condom or with semen, and not change the fact that she could sperm jack anyone and they're held accountable the entire time? You're on the hook for 18 years minimum. So to kind of put that out there and change one set of laws but not the other, even though one is older, it's more common. I mean, the idea of sperm jacking is not new. And at the same time, guys essentially tampering with it is very new, but they didn't change anything for us. So it just goes to show, what Hammerhand likes to say is, laws don't favor us when it comes to the family courts or the family system or for being a parent at all. And there's no chance they'll ever change as long as we're willing to play ball, as long as they can make the money. That's all the court system and the family court system has ever been. It's been about money. And 40 years ago, maybe 45 years ago, it used to be very common for the father to actually get custody of children at the end of family court and not the mother. Today's world, completely different story. So I know a lot of people are saying now that, Drake got the idea from watching mgtow channels. And that's why I titled the stream the way I did, because it took a while because of the fact that he's so famous, but now they're linking it to the red pill movement or mgtow, and we're catching flack for that as well. So again, guys, I know it's funny, but I would never recommend it. And Pops usually says at the end of his streams, flush it down the toilet or take it with you. If you are leaving a condom around, that is the way to do it. I would recommend flushing it down the toilet, because who wants to have a dirty condom in their pocket? But at the same time, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. And yes, he is from Ontario. So here in Canada, I don't know if he was busted here in Canada. I didn't read anywhere where this actually took place. If it was here in Canada, he'd already be in jail. I guarantee that. Whatever the US does for laws when it comes to the family system, or when it comes to, harming a woman in any way, whether it's from something like this, they come down on you twice as hard here. So although in the US, it was reported this year, the report for 2021 stated that 94% of men now lose all custody of their children when it comes to the family courts. It used to be 82, and here it was 83. If it's 94 in the US, it's probably 98 here in Canada. I have yet to meet anyone that got custody of their kids. yet to meet anyone. If she fought it, essentially, if a woman went in and fought it. Um, One of the other channels that are fairly new to YouTube, and I've mentioned it in a couple, is the lead attorney, and he actually covered the Drake thing as well, but he has a lot of good shorts because his streams are quite long. He cuts out at least like 30 minutes, and he has a lot of good ones up that basically shows just how far some women go to push a father out of a child's life. And the excuses that they make up are insane, absolutely insane. And the fact that they may have them jailed, not a problem. It's not a problem. Some of them literally do it just to have you put in jail the second you're out. I'm glad you won sole custody, D man. That's a very rare thing. It's essentially so rare. It's an anomaly, and I'm not the only one to believe that. You win custody of your children or joint custody on fluke, simple fluke. I mean, it's stated that 7% or so don't show up. 7% of women don't show up to the custody hearing, and that's how the fathers win. So you take your 94% and tack on 7. Well, you're not having good odds there. But D-Man, if you want to jump in, buddy, I'd love to hear your story. If you got a few. I mean, me personally, I could never go back into the full-on dating market or marriage market, knowing the damage that can be done. And I mean, my first divorce happened in the US. They were doing better than Canada the last time on that last report. So if it had happened here in Canada, most likely my child support would have been higher. And who knows? I mean, within months, they would have probably had me locked up. If you've watched Dave or Joe Rogan and Dave Foley's interview in their live streams, if you don't know who Dave Foley is, he's a Canadian actor who started a comedy show back in the early 80s, or maybe it was late 90s, early 90s, sorry. It's called Kids in the Hall. So this guy was part of a group that got really famous, and they made tons of money. Dave had actually married his friend's girlfriend, so that was a bit of a sticky one right there. Should have been a red flag, but it wasn't. And essentially, this was at the beginning of his peak, right? That he hooked up and married this woman. They had 2 children together. And from the time these kids were 6 months old, this woman did nothing but blow his money. He was making good money, but she was blowing it like for trips around the world. And essentially, if he wanted to see his kids, as he stated in the interview, that he would have to finish up on set, go get shots to travel internationally, and then fly to places like fucking Tibet, and then see his kids for a few days, and then fly back to Canada, to start recording for the next shows. And this woman literally went everywhere, spending as much money as she possibly could, stating that she needed to find herself or gather her thoughts, as he stated, which was hilarious. And they had 2 kids together. She did this for a few years. When it came to them getting divorced here in Canada, Dave was no longer making those big dollars, at the end of their marriage. And despite having the records there in front of them stating that Dave was no longer making, a few $1 million a year, he was now down to like a few hundred thousand. The um, the attorney for her side, because he couldn't afford his attorney to actually go into court, the attorney for her side wanted $500,000 down, and for him to pay $180,000 a month, or sorry, $80,000 a month for two infant children, and to keep up their standard of life that she had now created. This standard of life where they could travel the world all year long. And Dave was stuck paying this. And the judge went for it. He accepted the fact that I don't think she got the 500,000. So the $500,000 down was actually taken off the table, but the $80,000 a month in child support was set. And he told the judge, it's like, I don't make this kind of money anymore. It's stated right there that I don't make this kind of money. And it didn't matter. The judge basically told him, and in his words, your ability to pay does not affect your obligation to pay, to keep this woman's lifestyle going. And when it comes to the divorce courts, I know it's the same here as it is in Canada. If you had to pay alimony to your ex-wife and child support, they base it off the lifestyle, not what they need to make it. It's the lifestyle. So her lifestyle was extremely extravagant, and he was stuck flipping the bill for that. Now, I'll admit, when I got divorced in the US, although I lost custody of my children, the child support wasn't too bad. So that was like a half win. That doesn't mean she couldn't go in there tomorrow and say, I want more money. She could do it anytime she wants, but all she wanted was sole custody of the children so that she could essentially say, I have all the control here. I'm the right one. And she would get her state benefits that way. Because if we had joint custody, she wouldn't get them. Right? So that was all she was worried about. She wanted to suck on, daddy government's tit. And that's the way they get it. And when we were dealing with social workers, we had social workers that were completely biased against it. And they're the ones reporting to courts. They don't believe that a father should get custody of the children, and they're going to report that to the court. And the court's going to take them on their word. The first judge we went in front of, he heard 13 words from me and told me to shut up and went back to listening to her side, which on her side, there were 6 people, and on my side, was lonely old me. So I didn't stand a chance in the family court. And most guys don't. But, it's the sign of the time, I guess. And now where we are trying to protect ourselves, we are actually getting called out in other ways. Of course, Drake will most likely have to pay this woman some kind of settlement. And she didn't want a kid. She just wanted his kid for access to his finances. And the worst part is the courts know that too. They don't care. It's all about the dollars. So with that being said, I mean, it's something to think about if you guys do go out there and start playing the field still. Wrap your tool and dispose of it. Don't get stuck in a baby trap. And know that most of these people out here that say they will have children, most of the women, they look at them as just the same way we look at a wrench. It's a tool. They're not actually going to say with any honesty that this is actually about having the child. The kids are a tool in the end. And, Drake's learning that the hard way, but at the same time, even if he does have to pay this woman out once for an out of court settlement, even though I don't think he should have, um, yeah, it was better than doing 18 years. 18 years plus. I mean, if the kid stays in school or went to college, we all know that goes up. But I'm hoping to be able to, now that I've got this set up pretty well, I don't think I've noticed any big lag spikes. I believe I can actually bring on guests. And hopefully this week, by the end, yeah, I'm hoping like by Saturday, I could set something up and bring somebody on as a guest. One of the big ones I wanted to bring on was Father Saunders. So I was going to reach out to him and see if he wanted to do a quick stream together to go over, how things went with him in the family courts, although he does state that in a lot of his videos, and to see how it was different from state to state. I mean, I know my course happened in Wisconsin. His happened, I believe, in Arizona. And, this guy also lost everything, So sharing his story will hopefully help somebody in the future. That's where I kind of get back to that whole we repeat ourselves. Well, we do, because we make a video today, it's gone in 6 months, and somebody new is coming in who's never see it, and they'll fall for the traps. But I wasn't going to keep you guys long. I just wanted to make sure everything was working, and I do appreciate you all showing up. And like I said, if nobody wants to jump in, that's fine and dandy. But I will hopefully be able to get a guest on, because like I said, I don't like to do the standalone. And I would rather have, someone else to share their story with us. Maybe get to know the people that we see in the chats. I know D-Man50, I'd like you to come on, because you've got another side of it. You've actually won custody of your kids, which is awesome. And yeah, like I said, I would like to get Father Saunders on, because I mean, he's one of the typical cases, right? I didn't have a lot to lose as an immigrant to the US who had just moved there. So Father Saunders was an established person and citizen who lost everything just to get to see his kids. That's what it cost him. And I mean, they ran over this guy hard, and he's not an unusual case. We were all told that marriage, when it came to divorce, you're losing half your shit. Well, that's not true. And that hasn't been true for a long time. You don't lose half your shit, you lose all your shit. And you could lose your kids, and you could be a slave to her forever. Here in Canada, there are groups that essentially the maintenance side of the family courts, they push more men to suicide in this country than possibly all over the rest of the world. But they are absolute hounds. And these were the same people that went after Dave Foley for the $500,000 or 6 months in jail. So, yeah, although stating it as a meat grinder. Yeah. It's something we have to teach our children, or, the younger generation. I mean, we've gone through it. Most of us have gone through it. So it's too late for us. But our son, our neighbor's sons, the guy on the other end of the country, he can still avoid these traps, and pointing them out is half the battle. So with that being said, guys, I want you to have a good night, and thank you again for popping in for the test of the notification. And we will definitely talk to you guys later. And like I said, once I get everything reset, find somebody to come in with me, we will definitely be doing this again. So thanks for being here, and I'm going to cut this broadcast early.